Welcome back to the channel. So, Floyd Mayweather's team explodes on the boxing media over lies about Al Haymon, Showtime, and their Fox Sports deal. And this is all coming right after Floyd announces that he'll be fighting Logan Paul, on Showtime pay-per-view. So, of course, you know, whenever there's a big announcement for the PBC, the media has to come up with some really bad reason that caused the success, right? It's just every time with these guys. The PBC can't take a step forward without established boxing media trying to throw mud on them and pull them back 3 steps. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be another edition of the boxing media lies on, maybe didn't lie, but are making a whole bunch of assumptions connected to the PBC that will eventually result in their demise. If you are not familiar, people in the boxing media have been predicting the demise of Al Haymon and the PBC for going on, 7, 8 years now. They were supposed to be going bankrupt. They're losing this contract. They're losing that contract, right? The zone is coming in. They're going to take over boxing, right? Floyd Mayweather Jr., Oscar De La Hoya is going to sue them because they're breaking the law. They're really promoters and they're violating the Ali Act, right? So they overcome a bunch of lawsuits, a bunch of rumors to become the most successful boxing promotion company in the United States, or if you don't call it a boxing promotion, whatever you call it, one of the most popular, the most successful in the world. They have had 2 of the biggest in dollars, not accounting for inflation, 2 biggest fights in the history of boxing, not accounting for inflation, because truthfully, they weren't the biggest. If you go back and you realize that back in 1972, that a loaf of bread cost a quarter, right? And now a loaf of bread can cost you close to $4. So if you were getting paid $1 million then and you're getting paid $1 million now, do the math, okay? Last time I checked, 25 went into $1 4 times, right? And goes into $4 another 4 times. That's 16, right? So for every 1 million you get, 1 million back in 1971 is 16 million now, right? So 10 winds up being 100, 160, right? So that aside, because I had that debate with somebody yesterday about what the biggest fights are, and people never take into consideration the net present value of your money or the rate of inflation from the 2 periods of time that you're comparing. However, as you can see, I get into the analytics of these things, or analyzing these business deals. So when I heard what Mike Coppinger had to say, I was like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, as soon as I saw what Mike Coppinger had to say, and let me tell you what Mike Coppinger said, and then we'll get into what Floyd Mayweather and those guys, what Leonard Ellerby said. Mike Coppinger said that he believed, or his sources said, I don't know if it's his sources or if he believes, this seems like a pretty complicated scenario for it to be a source, and it's not any real numbers in it. It's just kind of rumor about what's in the mind of people. But what he says was, the reason that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is fighting Logan Paul is to help Al Haymon get leverage with Showtime and CBS because the deal with Fox is about to expire. So, layman translation for that, Al Haymon asked Floyd Mayweather Jr. to do him a favor and have a trash exhibition fight on Showtime pay-per-view so that they could increase the leverage with Showtime when their deal fails with Fox, right? So Fox gets rid of and stops airing boxing, and now Showtime has to go somewhere. PBC has to go somewhere, and they got to go to Fox Al Haymon sees that coming, and that's the reason why this fight is happening. Now, let me tell you that all of that, you could line it up in a row and it could make sense if you accepted it. But if you actually understand the facts behind that, I don't think that is likely at all. First and foremost, Showtime doesn't need any excuses to have Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Jake Paul or Paul Logan. They don't need any excuses for that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has always fought on Showtime. Can you remember of a time that Floyd Mayweather Jr., other than that Taneshin fight out there in Japan, has fought outside of Showtime since he left HBO? The answer to that is no. You can pretty much expect if Floyd Mayweather Jr. has a fight, it's going to be on Showtime. The Conor McGregor fight was on Showtime. The Manny Pacquiao fight was on Showtime. The $20 million deal that he got when he first left, the $200 million deal that he got when he left HBO and went to Showtime, again, that's Showtime. Floyd Mayweather has always been loyal to Showtime, and that's one of the things that Floyd Mayweather, actually, that's one of the best characteristics that he has. The man is loyal. He kept the same team with him dang near his whole career, even though he had beef with his father when his father got out of prison and he got and they worked it out. He brought his father back in to train him for the biggest money fight that he ever had. This is a man that is loyal. So the idea that first of all, number one, Floyd Mayweather is his own man. And I don't think Al Haymon would try to convince him to be disloyal to Showtime. He's going to be like, hey, and he might go right to Steven Espinoza and say, hey, I'm going to do this fight. It's not like Floyd Mayweather Jr. has to go sit, out in the hallway when Al Haymon is making his deals. That is taken, saying this means that if you accept what Mike Coppinger says is true, that's saying that Floyd Mayweather has no agency in this. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a partner with Al Haymon. Al Haymon does not run Floyd Mayweather Jr. So why would you assume that Floyd fighting there had anything other than to do with the fact that Floyd has always been successful over there? And why would he leave something that is successful for him and has made him almost $1 billion to go over at Fox? Where else would he take the fight? What is he supposed to go to Triller? Or what's he supposed to do, right? So Leonard Ellerbe jumps out there and says, man, what is this nonsense? You're just straight up lying. There ain't none of this stuff that's true. So I don't know whether any of the things that Mike Coppinger says are true or not. I don't know if Fox deal is about to expire. But guess what? Just because it's going to expire doesn't mean they're not going to renew it. I mean, so what if it's going to expire? There's expiration dates on things. They very well may be in negotiations to renew it. Why not? It's not like I don't hear anybody saying that ESPN is getting rid of Top Rank, and ESPN ain't getting the return on investment that Fox has. I keep talking to people about pay-per-views, and they keep saying, oh, they only did 350,000 pay-per-views. It only did this. It only did. Dude, if you understand what that means for Fox, then you can understand that 300,000 pay-per-views at $75 an hour takes a lot of money off of their budget, because a lot of the fight will be self-funding. They can have their guarantees, they can have their escalators and all that. But as long as those fights on pay-per-view make what they need to make, Fox is not spending that actually on the programming. Then they can bring it in and show it to everybody, and they get good ratings on it, on the big fights. You don't get tremendously high ratings on small fights, but dude, they're doing better numbers than ESPN. So I want to understand why people ain't asking about when ESPN is tossing Bob Arum. They're always talking about when somebody is tossing Al Haymon. Like Al Haymon stopped airing something on Spike. Dude, nobody even had, or Bounce and Spike. Man, ain't nobody even got that. But what happened when they say, oh, you lost Spike, you lost Bounce? Yeah, he bounced his ass right over there to Fox in a bigger deal, man. Just stop trying to predict the downfall of the PBC, man. I don't see it happening. They are a managerial and advisory organization. I've seen PBC fighters just fight on Triller. The whole thing to me is just stupid. Mike Coppinger has some good facts. He'll give you true information on a regular basis, but sometimes when you jump into speculation, your speculation can be strong, your speculation can be weak. Your strong speculation can be wrong, and your weak speculation could be right. However, when Leonard Ellerbe jumps out there and calls you a flat-out liar and flips on you, dog, I'm riding with Mike Coppinger on that. Or at the very least, I'm going to take the wait and see look. Okay, you keep saying they're going broke. I'm going to wait and see. If 5 years from now, they're at Fox still, I wonder if Mike Coppinger or anybody's going to remember that Mike Coppinger said this. Probably not. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.